The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. It's Friday and it is well into December now. I don't know how that happened, but we're thrilled to be here and we're thrilled to be continuing with our Holiday Giveaway Extravaganza. And that is indeed what it is. If you have been watching, you know we've given away a lot of awesome stuff and we're continuing with that. Every single hour that we're on live up until the last show, which is December 20th, that's 2 weeks from today, every single hour that we're here, we're going to be giving away at least one item, and we're really kind of stepping it up to 2 items an hour today. That may continue. We may go to 3 items because we just have so much stuff to give away. So the way this works, you're watching the show. At the beginning of each hour, we'll tell you what's up for grabs this hour. You want to note that and know what it is that you're interested in winning. Then in the second hour, I'm all discombobulated because it's Friday and I'm excited about this. So in the first hour, we're going to show you what we're going to give away. Then you're going to see at some point, they're going to show a word or a phrase on the screen. You want to write that down as well. You want to email us. Emily will show you the email address that you want to write to us at. And you have until 7 o'clock the next morning, Pacific time, 7 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow morning. Send us an email to this address. In the subject line, put the object that you want to win, and then in the body of the email you want to put the word or the phrase that that you want to that we showed. I'm like discombobulated today. I'm so excited about all of it. So let's, without further ado, I want to show you the first thing that we're giving away today. This is from our good friends at Uncle Milton. How much do I love Uncle Milton? Honestly, they're one of my favorite toy companies. I always know when we get something from Uncle Milton that my son is just going to go gaga over it. Not Lady Gaga, but you know, the old school Gaga. So this is a really cool item. This is the Dolphin Voyage Lights and Sound Wallscape. And what this is a series of decals that you can put on your wall. And by the way, they're wall safe so that you can reposition them. If you're renting or you only want to decorate for a short period of time, or you're going to move furniture around, you don't have to worry about that because you can put the wall decals on and you can peel them off. You can let the kids decide where they want to put them. And if you're not wild about it, you can reposition them when they're asleep. But there are many different versions of this. They're called Wild Walls. But this particular one I absolutely love because it's the Dolphin Voyage. So it's really, really cool. But there's one that's dinosaurs. There's the Shark Encounter, which scares me a little bit, and the Safari Adventure that has jungle animals. So if your child is interested in a specific thing or you're working on a specific scheme in the bedroom, I know I put in a request to them and said, can we get a science one that's space? Because that's what my son's bedroom is, all space and rockets and moons and things like that. But I love this underwater because it's really conducive to getting your child to sleep. So here's the deal with it. You put the decals, which are totally flat, right? But they're shot in such high def that they look like they're three-dimensional. And then there is this looks like a little cup. It's a little blue cup that you position underneath the stickers. And you don't have to put it underneath all the stickers, right? But it has a night light in it that also you can switch it to just light or light and sound, and it plays really soothing sort of underwater sounds with it, and the sounds of whales singing. It's just delightful. And the light, when it's flashing on it, really makes it look like it's in 3D. If you've got a little one that you're trying to get in bed and they're not, and little, I mean, this is great for our tweens too. My son would love this. And he's 10 and a half now. But in any case, you're trying to get them in bed and you want to make going to bed a pleasurable experience and getting them to stay in their bed by themselves, right? This is a really cool item because you can turn on the lights and the sound and they're excited to be there and they listen to the sounds. Very, very soothing. It says water wave light effects, just like being underwater. Light gently fades in and out, illuminating your wall and ceiling. Real undersea and animal sound effects. Synchronized lights and sounds that bring the scene to life. And there's an automatic shut off. Right now, one of the things that we have in my son's room, I mean, he has the moon in your room, which is a lovely, lovely thing. But he has a rocket-shaped lava lamp that is very soothing to him because it's lights and it moves and it just sort of lulls your brain into letting go of the different things that you're worried about, right? But my husband and I, one of us has to remember to go in and turn it off, right? So this is great because it has an automatic shut off. Really, really wonderful and unique toy. So that's the first thing that we're giving away. And the second thing that we're giving away in this hour is one of our toys from Fat Brain. And Emily's got a picture, I think. There it is. It's the ball of wax. And the first time I heard it, I thought it was wax, W-A-X, but it's the ball of wax. And it's a series of little magnets. Those little triangles there are magnets so that they can put it together in lots of different ways. And it's kind of, it has a Lego feel to it in that it can be sculpted into all different kinds of things. You can take it with you in the car and, the pieces will glom together so that you're not having to have a baggie to carry it in, but you can create all kinds of things. I love having something if we know we're going to a restaurant, especially if we're going with other adults. You don't always want to take the Nintendo and you don't always want to take, the iPad and have them get lost in the world of that and have something a little bit more interactive. This is the ball of wax is a great thing to have in that bag for when you're at the doctor's office or you're in the, waiting for the meal because it can be interactive. It's something that you can do together, but it doesn't make a big mess. And you're not going to lose pieces of it because it's magnetic. Ball of wax. And that comes to us from Fat Brain Toys. So that is the other toy that we're giving away in this hour. Make sure that you say which one you want in your subject heading and then the word or the phrase that Emily shows you at some random point during the program. I have no idea when it will come up and I have no idea what the random phrase is. So I want to encourage you that if you're loving the holiday giveaway, tell everybody you know. Spread the joy, spread the love, because there's people out there that we haven't reached yet that we know that an item like this could really make the difference. It's one more thing under the tree that you didn't have to pay for that can lighten the load. So good karma, share it with your friends that we're giving stuff away. I can tell you that years ago in a really tough Christmas when my son had been diagnosed and my mother came to visit but things were a little bit slim and I was feeling bad that I didn't have enough stuff to give my mom and it was just, it was a little bit of a rough Christmas. And the one thing that I had gotten that I knew that my mother really, really, really wanted, I got us tickets. We still had to stand in line, but I got us, the beginning tickets to go see the Ellen DeGeneres show. And it was the year that Ellen started doing her 12 Days of Christmas, which kind of, Oprah's favorite things and Ellen's 12 Days of Christmas is really what inspired this holiday giveaway extravaganza. And so we didn't know that we were going to get something, but when we were standing in line, they were taping a show before and everybody came out and said, oh my gosh, you're here for the 12 Days of Christmas, you're going to get something amazing. We just don't know what it is. And there was such a buzz. I was there with two friends and my mom. A really fun day that we spent together. And so we went in, we were there for the Ellen show. And before we left, we all got this amazing gift that we all got a VCR that played DVDs as well. And we got a TiVo and a sound system to go with it. Each one of us got that. And I remember the difference that it made, and the fact that other people got it too. And honestly, you know, it was one of the best days ever because, and it wasn't like, you know, I mean, let's face it, a VCR isn't something that's going to change your life, right? But it was such a wonderful to receive something and to watch other people receive something and to see that everybody got something. My mother and I, you know, talked about it endlessly. It was a really, really great day. So share if you've been winning, if you won something, you know, share it with other people, let them know, spread that love. It just grows and grows and grows. Okay, a couple of things that we want to take care of here at the start of the show. We want to remind you that this entire show is meant to be interactive. We want you to participate, to write into us in the live feature, and there's many different ways to get a hold of us. So Emily's going to remind you some of those different ways. I'm going to remind you, as I always do, to visit us at www.autism-live.com. You can watch the live show there. You can also catch our blog there, because we have lots of interesting things happening there on the blog as well. And there's the live feature is there as well. That's the big, skinny, long white box. Put your cursor there, type whatever you want, hit enter, and it shows up here on our screen. There's a bit of there's like a 2-minute time lag we're discovering on it. So make sure if a guest is here and you want to ask them questions that you write in early. We've got 2 great guests today. So please interact with us. I can't tell you how reinforcing that is for us when you interact with us. It makes us really happy. We know you're watching, we know you're paying attention, and that you're invested. And that's really what we're here for, is to help you to get hooked up with the information that you need to be as productive as you want to be. Whether you're a parent, teacher, practitioner working with a child on the spectrum, or you yourself are on the spectrum, we want to help you to get hooked up with the resources and the information that's going to make life richer for you in all different ways. I always remind you at the start of the show, lest any of us should forget, most of all myself, I am not the expert in autism. I'm a mom. My son is 10 and a half. He turned 10 and a half yesterday. He was diagnosed with autism at 2 and a half. So we are about to have our 8th anniversary of when he was diagnosed with autism. And he was very profoundly affected. He regressed into autism, but is in completely included 5th grade and talking about what he's going to study in college and the things he's going to do with his life. And I know that that is as a result of the great intervention that we got, intervention that I didn't know anything about, that other people told me about. So that's part of the reason why I'm here, is to pay forward all the good fortune that I've had and all the good information that I've gotten. And we have a team of people that they're all part of that mission to help you get access to what you need. And of course, the experts that we have, the regular experts and the guests that we have, same mission. They want to help you to get what you need. So I hope that you will participate. All right, we like to start every morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to shed some light on it in our world that previously didn't have autism in it, and try to understand what this means to us now. So I gave away yesterday what we were going to be talking about today, because we touched on it briefly. But our phrase today is visual schedules. What are visual schedules and why are they going to be important to us? So let's take a look at our actual definition here. Visual schedules. Visual schedules utilize a series of pictures to communicate a series of activities or the steps of a specific activity. They are often used to help children understand and manage the daily events in their lives. And this is a pretty good definition. I think we can all sort of access and get an idea of what it is we're talking about, but let's continue on to our working definition, which is a visual schedule will tell an individual what activities will occur and in what sequence. So that just pares it down a little bit more. We've talked about these before on the show. There's a Smarty talking about how to make a visual schedule, and so if you want to know how you yourself can make one, you'll want to check that out in our Smarty. I think that was in our September Smarty, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a really important thing to remember. We've been talking about, and we're going to continue talking about but we'll get to that in a second, our topic this week. But we're always trying to find ways that we can get to the good stuff, right? Without the anxiety and without the tantrums and without the pushback, right? We want happy, compliant people in our lives, whether it's our kids or ourselves or the people we work with. And the thing that I always like to remind myself is that I know when I'm in a car and I don't know where I'm going, I'm not a happy camper. And it doesn't matter whether I'm driving or I'm the passenger. If I don't know where we're going, I feel like I have no control, and I'm a control freak. And I'm not the only person on the planet that's a control freak. I like to be the captain of my own destiny, or at least feel like I understand what's happening. If you go in for a medical test and the person's just hooking you up to stuff, you have trepidation. You don't know what's going to happen. And if we're verbal enough and have good enough communication skills, at some point we'll say, hey, what's going to happen here? I need to know what's going to happen. And good people who work in those fields will tell you before you have to ask. They'll say, so here's what's going to happen. We're going to hook you up to these leads. We're going to roll you into this tube. We're going to take pictures. It's not going to hurt. And you go, okay, I know what's happening, right? But we all have a certain amount of trepidation when we don't know what's happening. And I don't think anybody enjoys the feeling of being dragged through life with no understanding of why and what's going on. So, and I especially, if I'm driving the car, and I feel like I'm responsible for where we're going, and the person with the directions is sitting in the passenger seat and doling them out like one at a time as they happen, I generally get ticked and say, can you give me an idea? First of all, tell me where the destination is. Are we going 30 miles or are we going 3 miles? And you got to tell me if we're making a left turn before we get to the thing. I got to have some prep time, right? Our kids feel the same way. They want to know what's happening. And they sometimes they need a little prep time before something is going to happen. So it's difficult with a child who doesn't have great receptive and expressive language skills to have a conversation about, so here's what we're going to do. And, then we're going to go to Walmart, and then we have to go to the grocery store, and then we're going to come home and have lunch, right? If they don't have enough receptive language skills, and you can show it to them on a planner, but if they're not reading text yet, what are you going to do? Well, the visual schedule makes that all possible. You're showing them a picture of, first we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that. I think you'll find that if you do that, especially try it out during this holiday season, there is a certain amount of tension that slips away, that things that might have been hard, the child's going to be able to say, okay, but I know that we're going to go to the playground after we go to this event that I don't really want to go to. It gives them some empowerment to be able to understand what's happening to them. And it also helps to build those receptive language skills because you're talking as you're saying. So first we're going to go to the playground, then we're going to do this. So they're learning the sequence of things. They're learning about the words that go with these pictures. Visual schedules, they're so powerful. In fact, if you go into any elementary school now, most teachers employ this at some point. You should be, if you've got a child anywhere in the elementary school system, especially in the younger years, you should walk into the classroom and somewhere very visible should be the schedule of the day. And of course, with the kindergartners, it's much more pictures than text. And as they get older, there's more text. Absolutely essential. So kids get a sense of, we're going to do this and then we're going to do that. That they're not just being drugged through their lives. Very, very powerful. Okay, so we always have a question of the day for you, and you'll see how this all fits together. We want to know from you today, what is the one behavior that you would like to change? And notice that we didn't ask you what's the one behavior that you would like to change in your child, because this is open-ended. Is there a behavior that you yourself are engaging in that you'd like to change? Is there a behavior that your child is engaging in? Is there a behavior that somebody you you work with is engaging in? Is there a behavior that somebody in your family, not, could be close, could be distant family? If there's all throughout your life, is there one behavior that you wish you could change? Because we're going to talk about how we might take that on. If you missed yesterday we went through a whole refresher course about our topic of the week. Our topic this entire week is none other than antecedent modifications. So this is, we spent a great deal of time yesterday talking about the A, the B, and the C of behavior. If you missed it, I encourage you to go back and watch it. But the antecedent is the moment before the behavior. What happened, because behavior doesn't happen in a vacuum, what happened right before? And we started talking about, is there a way that we can change things before the behavior happens so that the behavior doesn't need to happen. Very, very powerful concept in your life to begin to look at. Next week, we're going to talk about consequence, about what to do after the behavior to help shape the behavior. But this week we're talking about antecedent. And so that visual schedule is a great example of an antecedent modification. That if we let people know before a difficult task, this is what's going to happen, chances are that we're going to get much more compliance. We're not going to get as much pushback. And the anxiety that might come with this task is going to be at least diminished, right? So we're continuing to talk about antecedent modifications today, but today I've called in two pretty heavy hitter experts to help us to begin to understand how these things can change our lives and why they can change our lives. So on the agenda today, during our Real Progress with Dr. Adel Najdowski is going to be here with us, and we're going to talk about when we make a behavior intervention plan, what the antecedent modification portion of that is going to entail and how it's going to help us to change that behavior that we asked you, what do you want to change? What's the behavior you want to see how it just dovetails all? There is a plan. There is a plan. It's Funding Friday, so we're going to get to talk a little bit about funding and how there are some ideas out there of how you're going to be able to utilize every dollar that you've got to get the most out of them. We're going to milk those dollars, right? And then in our second hour during Science Beat with Dr. Tarbox, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox will be here with us, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the science behind antecedent modifications, why they are so effective, and how they've been demonstrated to be so effective. It's all in the research, right? Love, love, love when we see how to change something and we see why it's so effective and know that it's been effective time and time and time again. The research shows that. So very, very exciting day here on this Friday. And of course, be watching for the giveaway. There'll be 2 more gifts in the next hour that you're not going to want to miss. So we're going to take a break and we'll be right back with all of these things and more. Stick with us. Hi, we're at the Toys R Us in Porter Ranch, California. And Emily and I are going to take a little tour around the store and find some great toys for some great kids.
All right, let's go.
Come with us.
Yes.
Okay, bring your dinosaur and come on, let's go look at things in the game aisle.
Okay.
I know you love games.
I do love.
All right. So here we are in the game aisle, Emily, and I want to show you that there's all these games that you can get for kids of all ages. They're interactive and really remarkable. One of the hot toys this year and many other years is the Bop It toy.
Okay, so what about the Bop It is so reinforcing?
Well, you know what? It can be interactive. It can be a social game. It makes lots of noises. Sometimes they light up depending on the version. It helps to work on fine motor skills and it helps to work on fluency. This toy will grow with the child, and in fact you can get it in different versions. This is a little bit more complex version, and up top here we have one that's especially for older kids. It's called the Smash the Light. I would wait until a child is older to play with this one. So should we check out the Lego aisle?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it.
Go. So how can we use Legos to help our kids?
Well, they're really spectacular toys for our kids because they work on executive functions and planning. They're really colorful. You can work on colors and grouping and matching, counting, because they have the little dots on the top. And if you have a younger child, you can start with the Duplo toys that are compatible with Lego and they don't have the choking hazard.
So then as the kids get older, What's great about Legos, it looks like, is that there's all sorts of themes. We've got movies here
Yeah.
and video games, so the kids can really connect with what's personal to them. So Legos are amazing, but what else do we have to see?
Let's look at some educational toys in the leapfrog aisle, shall we? Okay.
Okay, so what do you have here?
Well, we're in the leapfrog aisle. This particular toy, very popular this year, is a leap reader. It comes with a little pen, and it tells us that we're going to read, write, and listen, all skills that we want to work on with a child. This pen that's in this box, you can put it over different pages in the book. It will read aloud to the child. They can trace their letters. It reinforces them for doing a great job. It's a really spectacular toy for our younger kids that are working on reading, writing, and listening.
This looks like a lot of fun and a really great way to help our kids learn to read and write.
Absolutely.
What else are we going to play with today?
I think we should take a trip down the functional pretend play aisle. This is where you're going to find all the things that are like real, but the toy version. So I've got this lovely set here that's all fresh vegetables, so I'm teaching nutrition at the same time. They're all appropriately colored, but I've got a knife so I can be cutting them too. This is really great play for a young child.
Shannon, I heard you got some toys that I get to play with now.
Yes, I'm going to take you to the demo table. We're going to let Emily play with some toys, and we're going to be giving some of these toys away on the show. But they're not just any toys. These are toys that are featured in this year's Toys R Us toy guide for differently abled children. And this is put together with the help of our friends at Lecotech.
So what do all these different icons mean?
These are different icons that tell us what skill this toy might help to develop in our children.
So can I play with the toys now?
Yes, it's time to play with the toys, Emily.
So I think I recognize this guy.
Yes, this is the ever popular and very sweet Elmo. But this is a very specific Elmo that teaches adaptive skills like zippering.
Almost yellow triangle zipper.
And so we get the reinforcement of Elmo talking to us when we do these things. There's a let's keep playing. So it encourages the child to continue to interact. And he's very reinforcing. When he giggles, I just want to hug him and play with him some more. Okay, so moving on, let's look at some Melissa and Doug toys. These are incredible toys. They'll last several different generations because they're made out of good quality wood.
Awesome.
And let's start with a lace and trace toy. Now, I happen to know that you love turtles,
I
Emily.
do love turtles.
And this is a set of farm animals lace and trace. And the child can pick out a color that they like for a lace.
All right.
And there are lots of different things that they can do with this. And I know it might seem like this is an old-fashioned toy, but you know, sometimes the old-fashioned toys are the best toys. Because what you're doing right now, Emily, is that you're using a lot of hand-eye coordination and you're using the pincer grasp. This is a precursor to writing right here. If you've got a child who's having difficulty holding a pencil, this is a really reinforcing way to work on this. And it comes in lots of different things. And then also for Melissa and Doug, we have this amazing switch and spin. Love this so much. This is a great cause and effect toy. As we start to put the gears together, we notice that when you turn one, another one can turn. You can rearrange this and do it in lots of different ways. There are 10 design boards, so you don't have to just do fish. There are other things that you can put there instead.
That's awesome.
Kids love this toy, and it's another Melissa and Doug toy.
Cool.
All right, let's take a look at some fun games.
So I found this game, and it's called Fibber. So Shannon, I'm going to need you to put on your fibbing glasses.
I want a fib.
All right. So this game is totally reinforcing, and it helps our kids to work on lying.
Yes, and that's something we really, I know it sounds strange, but we want to work on that because being able to tell a lie is something that helps with safety issues. And also being able to tell if somebody else is lying is a really useful life skill.
What you need to do is get rid of your cards without trying to grow your nose, kind of like Pinocchio.
Okay.
But if you get caught,
And so eventually you can have a whole string of noses attached to the end of your nose. Very colorful. Again, we can be working on the colors. Kind of hilarious. A kid's going to want to play this with mom or dad and see that mom is Pinocchio telling lots of lies. I like this game a lot.
this is a great game.
We've had a really great time at Toys R Us, and all of the toys that you see here on the table we're going to be giving away on the show. So stay tuned to find out how you can win one of these great toys. Welcome back to Autism Live. We're here for real progress with Dr. Adel. Dr. Adel Najdowski is here with us. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Thrilled to have you here. And you are one of the co-creators of Skills, a product that we talk a lot about on the show, an amazing online tool that people can use, whether it's a practitioner or a parent can use this tool for so many different things.
That's correct.
There's a curriculum that's there and thousands and thousands of lessons that you can use to teach a child, and not just a child on the autism spectrum, but any child who is behind and needs to be caught up, correct?
Exactly, yeah. It has a really in-depth, comprehensive assessment that allows you to determine what a child's weaknesses are. So it doesn't matter if they have a diagnosis. If they're developmentally behind in an area, then it will hopefully capture that. And then it provides lessons to deal with those issues.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg of what Skills can do. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Skills. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you today is we've been talking about antecedent modifications. And in particular, we're looking at the holidays and how difficult it can be, and that we're setting ourselves up sometimes for, we know that there's going to be some challenging behavior. And as I said yesterday, it's not always the kid on the autism spectrum. Sometimes it's Aunt Martha that's engaging in some challenging behavior. So we've been talking about antecedent modifications, and there is a tool in Skills that it's an amazing tool. Tell us a little bit about what the BIP Builder, what that stands for and what it does, and the antecedent modification portion of it.
The Behavior Intervention Plan Builder, BIP Builder, in Skills is meant for helping to identify interventions that can be used for challenging behavior.
And it's all based on scientifically effective kinds of things. It's not like somebody just sat and said, well, you know, you could try this. It's been tied to research of what's been shown to be effective working with a lot of kids, correct?
Yes, exactly. So the way that it works is it guides a user to choose antecedent modifications and alternative behaviors they can teach the child, and then appropriate consequences based on evidence-based practices. So all of the options in there we know work due to research, and then it also guides you to do it in a way by choosing least intrusive interventions first. And it's really nice because it takes off the responsibility of having to remember all your options, you know, so that's one of the nice things. Even if you're a very experienced clinician or professional and you know exactly how to write behavior intervention plans, this will save you time. Yes. Because they're all right there in front of you.
And I thank you for making that point, because you are a BCBA, a board certified behavior analyst, and so it's going to make it easier for you because you don't have to remember everything. But for those of us who aren't BCBAs, who are relatively new to the field of autism, and we're looking at our child and saying, I need to do something to intervene because this behavior is difficult, it really makes it possible for us to look at all of this, you know, really condensed information, and it guides us through so that we don't have to know all the things that we don't already know.
That's right. The best part about it is that it, once you put in the actual challenging behavior and you put in your information on what the function of that behavior is, so it does expect that there's been a functional behavioral assessment already conducted and you know the function, then it starts producing all these options for you that are evidence-based that should work if that behavior is really occurring for those reasons. And so then you have the ability to basically read off your options and kind of think about, like, is that going to be practical? Will I have the resources for it? Are the staff, you know, do we have enough staff to do that, or whatever, and think through the different options and then choose the ones that you think will work best. So it's really nice because everything presented to you is appropriate, and you get to choose which ones you want to go with.
Right, and you don't have to go and do all that research, which would take you probably a year. Probably take you a year to find where to do the research. Who am I kidding? You know what I mean? It's absolutely an amazing, amazing tool. So we're going to take just a short break, and then we're going to come back and delve specifically into the antecedent modification portion of it and talk through with Dr. Najdowski about what kinds of things it's going to ask us and that it might lead us through. So stick with us. We're going to be back in a minute.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to this segment, which we call Real Progress with Dr. Adel. Dr. Adel Najdowski is here with us. She was one of the co-creators of Skills, an amazing online tool that I encourage all of you. There's a free trial that you can try that is for 14 days, I guess. So you can go to I'm right. skillsforautism.com. Check that out. And there are so many different aspects to Skills that, I always say it's like, where do you begin to talk about it? Because there's so many different ways that you can use it, but it's an amazing tool, and I can guarantee you that I could meet somebody with very different circumstances than I have, and that they would find 1,000 uses for Skills, different from the ones that I use them for. So it's an amazing tool, and one of the things we've been talking about is the behavior intervention plan builder portion of it. That yesterday we were talking about the fact that in ABA we're looking to increase behaviors that we want to see more of, all the good skills we want to see more of, but the all-important decreased behaviors we want to see less of. So there's the big portion of Skills that talks about how to increase the skills in 8 different curricula areas to teach skills to your child, but there is also the component that helps us to decrease the behaviors we want to see less of.
Exactly, and that's the behavior intervention plan builder.
Exactly. And you were mentioning before the break that when you come, that it does request from you, you need to know what the function of the behavior is.
Yes, but it also includes an indirect functional behavioral assessment, which is a questionnaire that will ask various questions and by the end gives you some sort of like visual that you can see, and then you need to decide what you think the function is based off of. It's like a little chart graph thing.
Okay.
And so that's a tool that can help people to try to identify the function. But a lot of times, as we know, questionnaires based on subjective information of asking someone are not the best way of finding out the function, but it is a place to start.
Okay, but truly the best way to get the function of behavior is to have a BCBA do a functional behavior assessment.
Yeah.
An FBA that we talk about all the time, that I always used to call the FBI. You know?
Why not?
Why not? Because to me, it's sort of the same thing. It's an investigative team that comes in and looks at it and figures out what's going on, right? It's like
Awesome.
the FBI.
Yeah.
So in any case, so you start out in the BIP Builder, the Behavior Intervention Plan Builder. It asks for the function of the behavior, which is absolutely essential. So, and there is a place even before that where it asks you what is the behavior itself, and it gives you a drop-down menu that really should be made into a poster and given to anybody who ever says, oh, autism isn't such a big deal.
Because it's such a long list.
I tell you what, when you see that list, I saw the drop-down menu with a list of all the different challenging behaviors that you guys have listed, and you can specify one that isn't listed. It really reminds you of all the things that families have going on.
Yeah.
And it reminds you all the things that your child isn't doing. Right? It's in and of itself, that drop-down menu is very educational. But you can drop down and it'll say, you know, kicking and biting and hitting, and I mean, it's a crazy long list of things.
But the thing is that just because a child has autism doesn't mean they have to have these behaviors.
Exactly.
So we don't want to get into the point of saying, oh, well, he's going to be doing that because he just has autism, and accept it and think that it's just something you have to live with, because you don't. Mostly kids are doing these things because they don't have ways of communicating their needs and their wants. And so that's the whole point, is to figure out what is the need and the want, and that's the function. They're doing it for this function because they need this or want that. Once we determine what that is, we give them a replacement way to ask for that. And so now they don't have to bang their head anymore to get it. And we see that they increase that ability to use that functional communication, and then they don't engage in the challenging behavior anymore.
And it sounds incredibly simplistic. It's not that much more difficult than that. I mean, it requires you to have a plan and to follow through on the plan.
Right.
But I think where a lot of parents get tripped up is, well, what's the plan? And is it a plan that I can follow, and is it a plan that's appropriate? And that's what this BIP Builder does, is it gives you the tools to create the plan that's correct.
Right.
So, and in the first part of it, it talks about antecedent modification. So we talked about this yesterday, but let's hear it from an expert about why we want to look at the antecedent modification.
So in behavior analysis, you have your ABC model. Antecedent is what happens before the behavior. Then you have your challenging behavior, and then you have a consequence. So when you're talking about an antecedent modification, you're talking about prevention. What can I do that I can change up the environment and will hopefully make it so this next step, A, B, the B never has to happen. And so the type of antecedent modifications that you're going to use, of course, are going to depend on the reason that the child's engaging in the behavior, what we call the function. So, for example, if we know that the child is banging their head to escape from something that you're asking them to do, then we might change the way you ask it. You could present it as a choice format or something like that. You could lower your demand, so require a little bit less or make it easier. You could change the way you prompt. Maybe some kids just don't like to be prompted certain ways, like if it's a child that doesn't like to be touched or something, we could change the way we're doing that. So we really analyze why is this child engaged in behavior, and what are the things that I can do before the behavior even occurs at the antecedent end that will make it less likely for that behavior to occur. And a lot of teaching goes on in the antecedent section. So if we know they're engaging in the behavior to get some need met, we're going to start teaching heavily another way of asking for that need.
And I think that a lot of times we hear this kind of stuff and we go, well, that makes total sense, but how does this, fit in with me individually? And I'm always reminded of the phrase, I've got friends who say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
And we all engage in this in our lives, whether it's with our children or, in other ways, we all engage in this to some extent. I think about, my wonderful mother, who she went back to work work when we were teenagers, and she would have stuff in the refrigerator for meals. And all of us kids would come home from school and we'd be hungry. She wasn't there, and she used to provide a snack for us, right? She wasn't there anymore, so we would get in the refrigerator and we would make ourselves something to eat. And every night my mother would come home and be furious because we ate stuff in the refrigerator that she had for meals. And she would say, you know, why would you eat what I had in here for meals?
Right.
And yet every day we would do this same dance, that she would come home and be so mad at us that we ate stuff. And it wasn't until one of her sisters said to her, why don't you make a snack like you used to before and put a little note on and say, this is what you can have for a snack, right?
Yeah.
And it was
Or put a note on the other things that say do not touch.
Exactly.
And then anything else is open game.
And once somebody said that, my mother went, oh, duh, I've stopped being here to make a snack, and they are going to come home and eat a snack. And it was such a simple thing, but it changed for us because we got yelled at every single day, and we weren't going to stop eating things in the refrigerator. And she finally came to peace with that and said, I just need to change one little thing, and my life works better.
Yeah.
And there are so many times that we just don't think of it.
Yeah.
That we'll say, I hear parents all the time, I hear myself say it, you know, every day we come home from school and it's the same thing. And when you hear yourself saying that, it's a cue that there's something that needs to change.
Yeah, set up the environment in a different way. Sometimes it's as easy as just moving something so that behavior is not capable of occurring anymore, like if it's something with an object or whatever. In my case, I have 2 children, and they are at an age where they're fighting all the time, and it's extremely annoying. And I was experiencing this every day in the morning when we're trying to get ready. So what I finally ended up doing was changing their routine so that they're on opposite ends of the house when they're doing stuff. So they're not both trying to brush their teeth and fighting over the sink anymore, because one person's brushing their teeth while the other one's eating.
There you go.
And it worked beautifully.
And you always have that moment as a parent where you go, why didn't I think of this before?
Yeah.
But I think, especially when we're talking about autism parents, you know, we're underslept, overstressed, and you got 80 million other things that you're trying to work out and figure out. So you can't think of all things.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, you really need some expertise involved, and that's what the BIP Builder does, is it gives you all that expertise at your fingertips so that you get the benefit of over 20 years of research of, you know, we tried this with this behavior, and this is what is most effective.
Yeah.
And then you can still choose and customize and say, well, this isn't going to work for me, you know, because we all have an excuse. Well, that's not going to work because we have to be in the car by 7:15 or whatever it is. It allows you to choose so that you can say, no, this is possible. That I can do.
Yeah.
That I can do.
Yeah.
And that's all a part of skills. There's no additional charge for that. That's all a part of skills.
That is a part of skills.
So a really remarkable thing. And we know that antecedent modification sometimes is the definition of whether the day is going to go well or whether it's all going to start swirling in the toilet bowl, right?
Yeah.
And especially around the holidays.
Yeah.
Because this is a difficult time for us. It's a difficult time for our teenagers. It's a difficult time for our kids on the spectrum. You know, it's supposed to be, I think, you know, we all have seen the Norman Rockwell picture. It's supposed to be happy, joyous, and wonderful. But getting to that is often very difficult.
Yeah.
But antecedent modification can help us all.
Have you guys talked at all this week about ideas for, I'm sure you have, what to do when these issues come up for the holidays?
We've talked a little bit about it, but
Yeah.
if you have, like, would you stay for one more segment?
Sure.
I'd love to have you talk about that specifically.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk with Dr. Adel Najdowski about antecedent modifications for the holidays. Stick with us.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit about intensity of treatment.
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT, continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to this segment, which we call Real Progress with Dr. Adel. Dr. Adel Najdowski is here with us, and we've asked her to stick around for one more segment to talk a little bit about holiday helps and antecedent modifications. And during the break, we were talking about some of the issues that you guys have written in on, especially because we just went through Thanksgiving here in the United States, and a lot of people wrote in both before and after the holiday about how difficult it is sometimes at the table. And I know that's something that you have particular expertise in, is when we have our picky, finicky eaters. I do want to say that, you know, one of the big things that people wrote in about is other people's reactions at the table, and it's mostly the adults. That, you know, it's really hard to get other family members to buy a vowel and go with the plan. You know, you can create the behavior intervention plan for this is how we're going to react, but if, I don't know why I'm coming, I don't have an Aunt Martha, but our Aunt Martha's been like the person of the week. Aunt Martha, you know, if Aunt Martha can't keep her mouth shut, that it makes it a really difficult holiday for you and for your child when your child's being the finicky eater at the table. So I don't know if you can help us with Aunt Martha, but for our kids, just dealing with our kids at the table and how they react to some of the different things, if we're at a friend's house and how they behave, any suggestions for us in terms of that?
Well, it's funny that you bring this up because even my daughter, who's 5, typically developing, at Thanksgiving dinner, I put probably a dollop of every food item that we were having, and I think she literally ate like 3 bites of the turkey and didn't eat anything else. And she also did a sleepover that night at our friend's house, and the next morning they made breakfast and they offered her everything under the sun. Pancakes, waffles, eggs, no, didn't want anything, but I want a snack. Can I go in that pantry and get a snack?
Oh.
And they told me, like, wow, she's like a horrible eater, I can't believe it, you know, everything. And then later that day when we left their house, we went and got a salad, and per her request. And I took a picture of her taking a big giant bite of salad, and I sent it to them, and I said, see, she does eat healthy.
But she saw she could work you, is really the thing, right? I mean...
So here's the deal. I find, like with my own child even, for example, that I can get her to eat when we're at home and it's structured and I'm presenting certain foods, and it's not even that big of an issue. She might protest or say no or whatever, but we work through it and she eventually eats and everything's fine. But as soon as you go to someone else's house or you go to a restaurant or you're not in your own home, all of that goes out the window. Yeah. And personally, I think during a holiday situation where it's more about having fun and being together as a family, I wouldn't push it.
Okay.
I didn't care really that she ate 3 bites of turkey or whatever. She's going to live past that one meal.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're the one who's hosting the event, then you have more control over what's being presented as food. And what you could do is think about what are things that are semi-healthy that my child will eat, and have that as part of the meal. And then it's just something everyone can have some of, and that's what you put on the plate. And maybe you put a couple other things if your child will even tolerate it being on the plate, and you don't really make a big fuss about whether they eat it. I wouldn't get into a struggle amongst a whole entire table of people trying to get my child to eat something.
Well, although sometimes it's, you know, I know because I have people that I'm related to that have this issue where what's on everybody else's plate is open for discussion, and how much they're eating is open for discussion, and, you know, and they think they're helpful. I mean, nobody gets up in the morning and goes, I know, I'm going to destroy Thanksgiving dinner for everyone because I'm going to talk about everybody else's kids and what they eat and what they don't. I really don't think people get up in the morning and do that, but still they do ruin everybody's Thanksgiving. You know, one person in particular on Facebook who left in tears because a relative was just so unbearably horrible about what the child was eating and wasn't eating, you know, and sometimes I think, you know, you can try having a conversation with those people, but other times it's just, you just may not be able to have Thanksgiving dinner with that person for a year or two.
Yeah, perhaps if it's that bad. That's
'Cause
seems
it's-
so extreme to me, but
Because you only have so many hours of the day, and educating people who supposedly care
Yeah.
about you, if they're not willing, doesn't necessarily have to be on your agenda this year.
yeah. Well, another option, if there's other children in this event, is to have a kids table. And it depends on the house and stuff, but I know in my house that our dining room and where we would put the kids table are in two totally different rooms, and so the adults don't really even observe what the kids
That's
are
a
doing.
great idea.
And it's kind of just swept under the rug a little, I guess you could say.
Right. The kids are monitoring each other.
Yeah, but I just don't really feel like it's anyone else's business except your own. And
Well, you know what I always
know.
say: other people's opinions of your parenting are none of your business.
Right.
Like, you don't have to participate at all, and they can think what they're going to think.
and the thing is when you're doing ABA and you're implementing the principles, you have to do follow through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're going to tell your kid you have to eat it, well, you better really make them eat it, because if they then struggle and have a tantrum and then you feel embarrassed because Aunt Martha's standing there, and then you
Yeah.
go, oh, well, never mind, and you don't do your normal thing and you don't follow through, you just reinforced your kid having a tantrum. So I always feel it's better to choose your battles and just not even go there if you can't follow through. And I really feel like it's difficult sometimes for people to follow through when family is around.
Well, especially in the holidays. Do we want to
Yeah.
make the holiday about that I'm going to follow through on this,
Yeah.
no matter what happens? One of the things that I was saying that yesterday is that during the holidays, when we're overtired and we're thinking about other things, I know I'm guilty of this. I'm more likely to have something come out of my mouth that is so, like, a consequence that is so not helpful. I revert to, some other life.
I'm throwing away all of your toys
Exactly.
if you don't eat that bite.
That's it. You've lost the computer for the next 6 months, right? Which isn't realistic, and I can't uphold that. I'm the kind of person who, because I use overblown language. I know you've seen this on the show, but I'll say that's it. There's no more DS for you. I'm going to give your DS away to somebody, to some other person, right? You can't be saying things like that. So my mantra in the holidays is that when I get into a moment where I feel like it's there for me, that I'm like, that I have to take a breath and think about what I say before I say it, because I will spew consequences that are not going to be realistic.
Yeah.
Really, really important for me to do that, to take that moment and think things through.
Another thing just to think about in general with your child is to sometimes practice things before they occur. So for holidays, if there's certain events that are going to happen and you know that there's possibly going to be a struggle, then before it even occurs, weeks before, like starting now maybe, you can start to, they call it priming, but it's where you actually have the child go through the motions of what's going to happen in advance, and then that helps them to be better prepared when it happens at the time.
Absolutely, I think that's a great, because that's a great antecedent modification. Rehearsing things and talking about what's going to happen, and even I was talking with another parent earlier this week about the family pet. They're on last legs and they're trying to get through the holidays, but they think they're going to have the pet put down before the holidays, and talking about how we're going to get through that. And we were talking about maybe them finding movies that show the pet. A child dealing with a pet dying and getting through that, and things like that. Maybe even some, minuscule rehearsals, not to torture the child, but going, talking about that, the dog may not be with us for Christmas. Those kinds of things are really difficult. Yeah. But priming that pump and rehearsing in whatever way you can, I think, is a really pivotal thing to give our children. We rehearse fire drills. Why wouldn't we rehearse other things?
Exactly.
So really, really important. And we're going to continue talking about things we can do to help with the holidays in the next 2 weeks as well. Next week, we're talking about consequence modifications, and we'll be picking your brain on that. Great. So in any case, we have to say goodbye to Dr. Najdowski so she can get back to the rest of her life, doing all the good that she does in all the areas that she does that. We're going to go to the A Word. This is the ongoing documentary that's being made here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2, and at this point in the series, he's now 5, and he's made a tremendous amount of progress. We can see that he's very conversational now, and very interested in people. Take a listen to, they're getting him to list different characteristics of different people, and they're helping him and prompting him through it, and then giving him another opportunity to do it by himself. So take a listen. It's pretty exciting. This is the A word.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack.
Jack Riley.
He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast.
Exciting.
I say Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Everybody around is so down with Jack.
Hi, Diana.
Hi.
What are you looking at? Is this Diana?
Hi, Diana.
Hi, Jack Riley. How are you?
Jack Riley has been in preschool for a few days now, with Jessica as his shadow. Today, his team meets to discuss how school is going, such as how Jack Riley's behaviors have been, and how his teacher is handling him, and what they can do to help.
The first 2 days I was kind of feeling her out because she's actually new to teaching preschool, I guess, in general. So I didn't want to make her a little bit nervous. I was telling her, it's always okay to reinforce appropriate behavior. Don't forget to do that.
Yeah.
So I was showing her a lot with other kids as well as him. Looks like there's room for growth. She just seems to is trying to get into the whole hang of preschool. But I just reminded her why I'm there, to slowly wean myself out and have you take over.
Yes. How much are you able to back off and let him kind of do his thing?
Outside play, pretty much 95%.
Awesome.
So
It's just the play.
It's just the inside play.
The tantrums, what's evoking the tantrums?
It was snack time because they provide the snack at school, and yesterday was bagels and cream cheese and diced pears, and he wanted neither. But instead of saying, "Hey, I don't want that," he started to flip out. And then I reminded him he had goldfish. He just has to use words appropriately.
Good job.
And then after that, he wanted milk, but he didn't have milk.
You're almost done with the level. Okay.
So he got really upset, and then he felt that if he screamed it louder, he would get it. So I said, "No, we just don't have it." So I told him once, and then it still wasn't okay. I had to pull him out because the other kids were getting a little bit uneasy, so I didn't want to direct attention to him. So I let him have it outside for 2-3 minutes. After he calmed down, I just told him, you don't have it. So either drink water or drink nothing. That's just what we have. Sorry, dude. And he was fine after that.
If you're seeing that as a reoccurring thing, then we can just teach them the rule. If they don't have what you want, you say, "Oh, I wish they had milk," but okay, teach them the replacement thing to say, and then we'll take data on in vivo. Is he able to use the replacement behavior that we've taught?
What'd you have for snack yesterday at school? What was there? But you didn't like it. What was there? Do you remember?
Peaches?
Okay.
And peaches are good.
What else?
Peaches are peaches good for me?
I love peaches. I think they're so good, and they're very good for you. They have lots of vitamins.
And what else?
I don't like them.
Yeah.
That's okay. You can just say, "I don't like peaches." So you give the roll,
Okay.
have him practice, and then we'll take data on if he's able to implement the rule.
Should I be packing him a juice box? And
No. I think it's good to have him kind of be okay with if it's not there, it's not there.
As much as you can fade back. Only jump in during those times where he really needs you so we can.
So if I say, "Tell me about a dog," and then you would have to say, "A dog has fur, it has a long tail, and 4 legs." Okay? Okay? So I'm going to ask you something. Tell me 3 things about Steven.
Steven is a teacher.
He's a teacher?
He just from his back cave.
He came from his bat cave?
And he doesn't live on the street.
And he what?
And he doesn't live on the street.
And he doesn't live on a street? Okay, I'll take it. Tell me 3 things about a kitty cat.
A kitty cat, and Sloan has a dog.
No, so it's a pet, it's an animal, and it's... Tell me 3 things about a cat.
A cat
You said
is
it's a...
somebody's.
Tell me 3 things about Lainey Grace. Okay, so all by yourself, tell me 3 things about Lainey Grace. Ew.
Welcome back. That was the A Word. Amazing, amazing series. You can watch it from the beginning by visiting their particular YouTube channel that Emily is showing you on the screen right now. I can't say enough about how remarkable it is this family has allowed us to come in and videotape in the way that they have, so that you can see the progression that happens with this child, and he's making tremendous progress. And this is what should be happening with quality ABA therapy for all of our kids. So do check that out. That's the A Word. Also wanted to announce that our toys that we are giving away in this hour, we're in the middle of our Holiday Giveaway Extravaganza. Every hour between now and December 20th that we are live on the show, we're going to be giving away at least one item, and I mentioned that we have 2 that we're giving away during this hour. And in order to win these, all you need to do is watch to see what the items are that we're giving away, and then at some point during this hour, Emily will show a picture or a phrase. Well, it'll be a word or a phrase with a picture on the screen. You need to write down the word or the phrase, email it to us at this address that Emily gives you, and we need to get it by 7 a.m. tomorrow morning Pacific time. That's Pacific time, 7 a.m. And you'll need to email us in the subject title. You need to put the name of the toy that you want to win, because I'm going to give you a choice in this hour. And in the body of the email, you need to put the word or the phrase. So the 2 items, we'll give you the email address here in just a second. But the 2 items I have here in front of me, Encore. This is a really fun board game, also given to us by Endless Games. You have to check out their website. They have some really cool games. I was saying this morning, they have the game Password, and I don't know why, I'm just in the mood to play Password this morning. So they have some great old games like that that are, just, you can't beat them, right? But they have some new games too. I'm always on the lookout for new board games. This one, we got to play a bunch of Endless Games board games a couple of weeks ago with my family, and this was one of the favorites, Encore. Now this is for individuals that are a little bit older. It says 8 and up, and I really want to, I think it would be tough to play it any younger than somebody who's 8, because you have to have enough songs in your head, right? That you have to have lived a certain amount of time to have enough songs in your head. But it's a board game. Everybody has pieces, and it's a little bit like Trivial Pursuit in that there are different colors. You roll the dice, and you go on different colors, and it stands for different things. You sometimes you're given a word, and you have to come up. It's a challenge for everybody at the table. You can play in teams or play with individuals, but everybody has to come up with a part of a song. You have to be able to sing a minimum of 6 words, and one of the words has to be the word that was given. So if they give you the word Friday, you have to come up with and sing a line from a song that has the word Friday in it. And if you do, then it goes to the next person at the table, and they have to sing, or the next team at the table, they have to come up with a song, and you keep going until nobody can think of any more. Then there's a challenge aspect of it at that point. There are other things besides finding the word with the song, other specific challenges that you can do. It's really, really fun. And I didn't think, my son who's 10, who enjoys singing, but has really just recently gotten into music, I didn't think that he was going to be very good at this. And yet he was very good at it. But my husband loved this game. When we were all done and we were picking our favorites of who liked which game, this was my husband's very favorite. And I could see playing this with a group of adult friends and having a really good time. But I can't discount, it's so important that we give the gift of music to our young people, right? And I've seen with my child what a difference that can make, and that it's something that's very social for them to understand and participate in music, and to give them a voice to sing. I'm sure you've seen the viral video of the boy on the spectrum who was nonverbal, had never uttered anything, and just recently broke into song to sing along with Katy Perry. You just cannot underestimate the power of music in a child's life. So great board game, Endless Games, great thing to be doing. To see, I would have guessed that my son couldn't do it, and he was brilliant at it. And we had a good time too. It was really, really fun. You kind of make a fool of yourself singing, and everybody got into it. Now the other toy that we're giving away in this hour is Little Pim, and we featured Little Pim a couple of weeks ago. Little Pim is a plushie, a little panda bear, but it comes with DVDs that help you, and it has DVDs that you can purchase to help a child to learn another language. So they can be watching DVDs and learning French words. And I know that sometimes people say, oh, you know, I'm trying to teach my child English. My child is trying to get caught up with language. But we know that a lot of times, not always, but a lot of our kids will respond really well. And while they're learning expressive labels for things in English, to be teaching them simultaneously in another language is sometimes very helpful. So if you see in your child that desire to learn other languages, I know we've had moms write in and say that their kids are learning French, another mom that their son is learning Chinese. My son has been very interested since he was very little in learning Spanish, and we can feed that desire, and it's really important that we do. So Little Pim, we're giving away a Little Pim in this hour. So both of these toys, make sure that you write in the subject title which one you'd like to win and the word or phrase in the body of the email. And Emily, can you show them the email address that they need to mail that to? And you need to mail it to us by 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, by Saturday morning. Okay, so while we're talking about music, I'm going to throw this out there. I know we have a global audience, and this isn't going to be right for everyone, but we still have some tickets. If you've been watching on our Facebook, there was a very generous donation that was given to the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, who reached out to us here at Autism Live and said, can you help us to give away these tickets? We have a block of tickets for tomorrow night's performance. Ruben Shen, a brilliant world-class pianist from Taiwan, is going to be playing Rachmaninoff, and it's the beginning that's the first engagement at a U.S. tour that the rest of the event is completely sold out, and every other venue. But a very generous donor set aside a block of tickets at the Segerstrom, which is an amazing, amazing venue in Costa Mesa, California. So if you are anywhere near Costa Mesa, I can still take requests for those tickets. I still have tickets left to see that performance for free. And our donor requested that families come together, that often it's very difficult to find an event that you can go to at the holidays that the whole family can go together. And so they were very particular about giving a large amount of tickets so that an entire family could go to this concert together. It really is the kind of thing that has the potential to be life-changing. And so we want to encourage you, if you are close enough that you can get to Costa Mesa tomorrow night at 8 p.m. at the Segerstrom Hall, please let me know immediately, because I have a few more hours that I can submit some more names for some of those tickets. So that is the Ruben Shen Rachmaninoff concert tomorrow at the Segerstrom. We are going to take a break, and we're going to be right back with you after these messages.
So the holidays are fast approaching, and you might be looking for a fun cookie recipe you can make with your kids. Well, thankfully, Breads from Anna has given us a great sugar cookie recipe that we can make that's gluten-free. So let's get started. Here's some of the things you'll need. For the dough, you'll need 1.5 cups of vegetable shortening, 2 cups of sugar, 2 tablespoons vanilla extract, 1 tablespoon almond extract, 4 eggs, 3 cups of Breads from Anna dairy-free flour, 2 cups potato starch, 2 teaspoons baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of salt. And for the icing, you'll need 1/2 cup of shortening, 1/2 cup of butter, 1 tablespoon vanilla, 4 cups confectioner's sugar, and 2 tablespoons of almond milk. To start with, we're going to just mix together our liquids. So we've got our shortening, eggs, our vanilla, and our almond. And we're just going to go ahead and cream these together. So once that's all creamed, we're going to go ahead and add our dry ingredients, starting with our Breads from Anna flour. And we've got our potato starch, and we've got our baking powder and salt. We're also going to go ahead and put in 2 cups of sugar. All right, once that's all blended together, we're going to go ahead and cover this and chill for about an hour or overnight in your fridge. So it's been an hour, our dough should be cool. So we're gonna try to roll this out to about a 1/2 inch to about 3/4 inch in thickness. So while I'm rolling out the dough, I preheated the oven to 400 degrees. And I have a baking stone preheating in the oven that I'm gonna set these on. But if you don't have a baking stone, that's okay. You can just use a cookie sheet with parchment paper. Now you're gonna take your cutter and just cut out all your cookies. All right, so I'm gathering my cookies, my little dudes here. That's good. Let's go ahead and put these in the oven. And these should be good to go in about 6 minutes. So while our cookies are baking, we can go ahead and start making the frosting that we're gonna use once they're done. So we're gonna need our shortening. We're gonna go ahead and add our butter. We're gonna add our vanilla. We're gonna start to blend this. Okay, so once we've creamed these together, we're gonna go ahead and add our sugar just a bit at a time. And last but not least, we're gonna add our almond milk just to soften it up a little bit. All right, that looks pretty good. So once our cookies are done baking and we've given them time to cool, we can go ahead and frost them all. Okay, so our cookies are ready. Let's go get them. These look pretty good. Now's the part where you get to be creative with your kids. Feel free to ice these in different colors, with sprinkles, however you want. We've got our cool cookies here, our homemade icing. All right, these look great. For more of these recipes and to possibly win some of your own breads from Anna, go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/autismlive, and we'll see you there soon. Thanks for joining me.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We have with us here in the studio Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
We've been away for the holidays and for the first set of holidays. We're getting ready for the next set of holidays, but thrilled to have you back. And we should say that you are the head of research and development here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and you are also the director of the Autism Research Group.
That's correct.
And I didn't plan on talking about this with you, but I always like you sit in front of me, and then something occurs to me that we've been talking about the Autism Research Group a lot lately because you have a new video that's up on your website.
Right. Yeah.
And it came up in conversation the other day when we had Matt Asner from Autism Speaks here because he just was at the LA Car Show and he got separated from his son who's on the autism spectrum.
Yep.
And, it's a happy ending story because his, within minutes of him realizing that he was separated from his son, his cell phone rang, and it was somebody at the BMW dealership saying, "Your son just walked up to me and said,
Great.
Can you call my dad? Here's his number."
Great. Perfect.
Right?
That's great.
And what Matt said was, I was so thrilled because I didn't know that he was capable of this, and I said, "Had you taught this to him?" And Matt said, "I'm embarrassed to say no."
He just figured it out.
He just figured it out.
Well, good for him. That's lucky.
Exactly. And we talked about how important it is that sometimes we don't think about these things and how important it is to not only try to prevent that kind of thing, but to teach our child skills so that if they do get lost, that they know what to do. And that's exactly what the video that you guys are featuring does.
That's
correct?
right. Yeah, people absolutely should have a look at the video. You can go to YouTube and just search Lost in Public, and it's the first video that pops up. Or you can go to our website, autismresearchgroup.org, and it's posted there as well.
Really remarkable, and to give you those tools to understand, what you need to be teaching your children in order. And I'm very gratified that because my child was a client of CARD, he went through what the different things are in the video, and he actually went through it in some cases with the person who is hosting the video.
No kidding.
Ryan Bergstrom. So I'm sure I still have more things to be doing, but we went through the whole safety protocol, and my son passed, and that was that gave me a lot of peace of mind.
Well, and the nice thing about it is, it's not rocket science. All the procedures, well, like a lot of stuff in ABA, all the procedures are fairly straightforward, and parents can absolutely do it themselves. It just takes a little bit of patience. It takes, some time to set aside specifically for that, and it's going to take some positive reinforcement, both for you and for your kid, but it's very doable. It's very straightforward stuff.
Absolutely. And so watch that video. It's free, and it could be something that really has a life-saving effect in your life. So don't, we said when Matt was here, you know, I believe in this concept that in life you are either the lesson or you have a responsibility to learn. And poor Matt went through a horrible, horrible event that, you know, for even a millisecond he didn't know where his child was.
That's right.
And the stress of that. And, you know, so he was a little bit the lesson in that day, but we can all learn from it and say, oh my gosh, I haven't prioritized that, I need to do it. And not going to cost you anything, lost in public.
That's right. And I'd say don't beat yourself up over it if you haven't prioritized it. Honestly, hardly anybody does.
Right.
We all need this reminder, whether or not we have our child's on the spectrum or not.
Yeah.
It's something that's easy to forget or easy to not prioritize because, you know, hopefully your child will never use these skills ever in their life.
Right.
That's great. You know?
Right.
But in that 1 in 1,000 chance when they really need them,
yeah,
they're going to need them. So it's worth prioritizing.
Absolutely. So watch it and then share it. Share that video on your Facebook or whatever so that other people have access to it as well.
And leave comments for requests for future videos, because this is part of a series that we're producing called What Works. And it's basically going to be just kind of user-friendly, semi-entertaining videos showing, you know, some basic nuts and bolts information of how to teach something that matters for your kid. And so, yeah, leave requests. You know, we're definitely trying to do stuff that people actually are interested in, you know.
Love that. What works, because that's what we all need in our lives. Right. Amazing, amazing. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be continuing talking about antecedent modifications with Dr. Tarbox and picking his brain for why we do antecedent modifications, why they work, and what evidence we have that they work. And we will take your questions as well on the live feature for Dr. Tarbox, so stick with us.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. For December, I thought we'd work on an activity that is a handmade gift for someone who is super special in your life. It could be for a teacher, family member, or a friend. So let's get to it. The materials you'll be needing for this activity are cardstock, pencil, glue, and crayons. This activity is making a monogram letter filled with crayons. This activity is great because it works on one, the pincer grasp, and also planning ahead since you're going to be having to break the crayons to fit the inside of the letter. So to begin this activity, first things first, mom or dad or guardian is going to have to draw out the letter for the kid. If that's a little difficult for you, you can always just print something out from your computer and then glue it on the heavy cardstock, all right? I'm going to go ahead and draw mine freehand. So now that my letter M is drawn out, now it's time to fill it in with the crayons. So I'm going to take them and place them onto it accordingly and try to break them into pieces that'll fit the spaces perfectly.
See all the colors in the sky tonight.
So now that you've figured out the sizes of the crayons to fill in your letter, now take your glue and fill in the space and start laying them back in. Now we're going to let this dry for a little while. Once your monogram is done drying, feel free to decorate any way you feel. I'm going to write a little message, but you can do whatever you want.
Stars come out and swirl around so high.
So here's my finished monogram letter. Hopefully Ms. Mackenzie is going to love her gift, and I hope you enjoy doing this activity with me. Until next time, guys, craft on. Bye.
When you see me flying by your side.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to this segment that we call Science Beat with Dr. Tarbox, because Dr. Jonathan Tarbox is here with us. As I mentioned before, he is the head of research and development at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and he is also the director of the Autism Research Group, a wonderful organization. We were just talking about a new series of videos that they're doing. We hope that you will visit their website. Dr. Tarbox, tell us what the website is.
autismresearchgroup.org.
Easy enough.
Easy enough.
But I like hearing it from you. And there's a lot of things that they can find on the website, including questionnaires.
A lot of resources,
yeah. And you can give your opinion about what kinds of research you'd like to see happen in the future. And
That's right.
And I love that. I always say, you know, if more people asked our opinions, right? And they're asking, so take advantage of it. In any case, we've been talking all this week about antecedent modifications. It's the holidays, and sometimes things get to boiling point for all of us.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it's all too easy to feel feel like it has spun out of control and that there's nothing we can do about it. So this week we're talking about antecedent modifications, and I in particular asked Dr. Tarbox to come in and talk with us about what's the research on this, and why does this work, and how do we know that it works?
Great.
So tell us more about antecedent modifications.
Okay, great. So as your readers or listeners are probably familiar already, antecedent modifications are anything that you do sort of beforehand that's preventive to avoid problems to begin with. So anything that you do before issues arise. And in general, generally speaking, antecedent modifications are always your best sort of first line of defense, because prevention is always better than problem solving, right? If you can prevent a problem, that's always better than having to directly fix it, okay? That being said, antecedent interventions rarely fix, an entire issue of challenging behavior completely by themselves. So it's never a fix-all, but it's always the best place to start.
Okay.
But even if you do the best job imaginable with antecedent interventions, you may still have to do some focus on replacement behaviors later on, and/or consequence-based interventions and problem-solving, emergency management, that kind of stuff. It doesn't eliminate all of that, but it makes your life a lot better and a lot easier if you try to take steps beforehand.
Okay. So having said all of that, and I think we can understand the basic principle of it, but I think where a lot of us get lost is that it's great in practice, but we don't always know what we can apply it to.
Right.
And yet, and also, and I think what I want to talk about first is the fact that I think it helps us as parents to get excited about doing something when we know how effective it is. So let's talk about, is there research on antecedent modification?
Oh, yeah. Tons of research on antecedent modifications. Almost all of the research published in the last maybe 10 or 20 years of treatment of challenging behavior in children with autism includes at least some components of antecedent modifications. Usually research studies include a package of treatments, so there'll be antecedent modifications where you're preventing the behavior from happening. There'll be a replacement behavior training piece where you're trying to teach the child to do an alternative behavior that's more adaptive and more productive than the challenging behavior. And then there'll be a consequence piece that usually involves extinction, which I guess you'll talk about next week, right?
Yeah.
Not reinforcing the challenging behavior. So yeah, there's tons of research. I mean, I don't know if anyone's ever counted the number of studies, but it's probably in the 100, 200 studies or so showing that antecedent modifications are effective. So we know that they're effective. The real question is what to do and with what child and which behavior and kind of when and how to do it.
Okay.
So maybe we can start with what we call satiation. Okay. And so it's a technical term. All it means is you figure out what the person wants and you give them a lot of it before it becomes an issue. Figure out what the person wants, give them a lot of it before it becomes an issue. Okay. So for example, actually, I'll give an example of a grandmother who used to call everyone in the family on a regular basis, angry that they never called her and talked to her, right? And so I thought, well, what's the real issue here? She wants attention. She's lonely, sitting in an old folks' home by herself, no attention from her family. She wants attention. Well, what can we do to get her to stop being grouchy? How about give her some attention? Yeah. I thought, let's come up with a way to give it to her as an antecedent, and let's see if that actually prevents the grouchy phone calls. So I set a schedule on my calendar, and I started calling her every Monday at a certain time of the day, even if she never called me or even if she never asked for it. Just call her, just give her 10 minutes of high-quality attention, ask her how she's doing, give her any news that's been happening lately with the family, whatever it is. Say, all right, love you, Grandma, great talking to you, goodbye. Did that for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and the negative grouchy phone calls to our household stopped. Gone, completely gone.
Yeah.
Negative grouchy phone calls to other family members stayed at the same level.
Interesting.
Okay? So it's real clear. It's like, give the person a little bit of what they want, and you're going to avoid the problem behavior.
Right.
And again, it's not a fix-all, but it's a good, at least, first step in preventing.
And we can do that with our kids who are desperately needing attention as well.
Exactly right. And anything else that they desperately want.
Yeah.
So, during the break, you're talking about holidays and holiday parties and how they can be difficult. Well, if you know you're going over to a family member's house for Christmas, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, whatever it is, and you know that that your child is going to have a problem, and going to have a meltdown at some point, then the first step to ask yourself is, okay, what is it that my kid wants that's causing the meltdown? There's always something. It's not the autism that causes the meltdown. It's not the brain that causes the meltdown. It's not just just because kids are difficult. It's something your kid wants, but they're not getting as much of it as they wish they had. Okay, so figure out what that is. For some kids, it really is just kind of overstimulation. It's too much noise. It's too much, too many people talking at once, too many things to look at. So what does your kid want? Your kid wants some peace and quiet and some escape from the overstimulation. Okay, so before your kid starts having the meltdown, get them out of that crazy environment, right? Maybe there's another room where they can hang out and look at a book or play with an iPad by themselves for 10 minutes. It doesn't mean that they're avoiding the whole family and social situation. Just give them a little break if you think that's what they're going to want. But the key is give them the break before the meltdown starts. Don't wait till they start to get agitated, right? So ask yourself, okay, last time we had a family get together, about how long did my kid last before the meltdown started to escalate, right? Or before it started to begin, and say, well, okay, well, it seems like my kid can last about maybe 2 to 3 hours before things start to fall apart. Okay, we'll give them a break at 1 hour. Right? And then bring them back and have fun for another hour, give them another break for an hour. But it has to be systematic. It has to be before the problem occurs if you want it to be effective. And it's not just going to be overstimulation. It could be things like attention, like you said, right? If all the adults are talking to each other and there's only one kid, no other kids for them to play with or whatever it is, they're not getting as much attention as they want. Don't wait till they get upset, right? Take a break before they get upset and give lots of attention to the kid before they get upset. Now, another strategy is do it before you even get into the difficult situation. So if you know you're going to grandma's house at 3 for Christmas dinner or whatever it is, and you know that attention is going to be a big issue, then wake up an hour earlier that morning to get your cooking done or get your stuff done or whatever, and between 2 and 3 or 1:30 and 2:30, spend an hour of high quality time with your kid before you have to then go to the party. What you're doing there in technical terms is called satiation, and it just means giving a lot of the reinforcer so that the kid doesn't want the reinforcer as much. They're less deprived of the thing that they want. So if you get an hour of mom's attention right before the party, then mom's attention is not going to be as important during the party because they just had a whole bunch of it.
Right.
So like chocolate cake, you love chocolate cake? Eat a whole chocolate cake, then see how much chocolate cake you want afterwards, right? You just had a whole bunch. You don't want it as much. That's how it works.
I pretty much need you to come with me everywhere I go in my life. This is how I feel on Friday. Are you guys feeling that way too? That I just think there were like 3 different circumstances that have been difficult for us that you just hit on all of the things of what I need to be doing. And it really brings home for me that as parents, I mean, I can sit here and you say this, but I have to think of it. And it's so great to have access to brains like yours.
Well, you got to make a plan, because it's easy for me to say, I'm not saying I'm good at this even. I'm trying to make the same mistakes with my kids, but that's because I'm not making a plan. You got to sit down and make a plan beforehand, maybe the night before, and say, literally write these things out. Make yourself a little Post-it note or sticky note or whatever, a reminder in your iPhone, whatever it is. This is when I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to give my kid the thing that he wants before he gets too frustrated about it.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, I need to hear all this. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and talk some more, because I want to talk. Yesterday, we asked a question about, actually, it was at the beginning of the week, we asked if people ever use a countdown for their children to help with transitions. And it's interesting because a lot of people wrote in and said, yes, they use the countdown, and it's very effective to be able to transition. But just as many people wrote it and said, oh, I stand there and count, but they're using it as a countdown for something bad is going to happen, and they all reported that it wasn't working.
And
so I want to talk about what the difference is and how they, because I was saying you need to flip that equation, but I want them to hear it from you. So let's take a break, and we'll be back more with Science Beat with Dr. Tarbox after these messages.
Hello, fellow activists. In our last segment, we talked about step number 2, educate yourself. Step number 3 is get support. Now, any journey can feel overwhelming if you feel like you're walking it alone. Well, you're far from alone, because with 1 in 50 kids diagnosed with autism today, there are a lot of us out there. Of course, there's always the issue of financial support. Now, there's a handful of organizations out there that offer financial support to families in need. ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, is one of them. Visit our website at www.act-today.org to find out more about our grant process. I want to talk about a different kind of support today, emotional support. Now, you can get that from other travelers on this path. Some of the best advice I've ever received is from the moms of other kids with autism who went to school with Wyatt or were involved with programs with him. Then there are the pioneers. These are the families that have gone through this years ago, and there was very little information out there. All of these people seem to have the desire to pay it forward. Now, one of them, Lisa Ackerman, who is one of my mentors, started an organization called TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. She actually took the concept of mentors and support groups and made it available to everybody. You can go to their website, talkaboutcuringautism.org, to find out more. During the first and most difficult year after Wyatt's diagnosis, I wrote an email to close family and friends, letting them know what was going on and the challenges our family was facing, and why we dropped out of sight. I was amazed at the outpouring of love and affection and all the help I received from that email. First, you have to be vulnerable. You can't be afraid to ask. Try this out. Could you cook me a meal? Are you going to the market? Can you pick me up a few things? Could your kids play with my kid and make them feel included? Or can you come over and clean my house? Well, maybe not that last one, except with your best friend. And maybe the best support of all is having someone that listens, and that doesn't cost a dime. So until next time, surround yourself with the loving kindness of others and keep the faith.
Welcome back. We are here with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox. We call this Science Beat because Dr. Tarbox is the head of research and development at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, and he is also the director of the Autism Research Group. So he's very involved in research and has a better understanding than any of us have about research and how it affects the treatment of autism. And I think first of all, it's wonderful to have you here because you have a beautiful brain, and I love how your brain works. And you also word things in a way that, as parents, we get them. I know I say this all the time, but people report whenever they get an opportunity to see you. From time to time, you go and speak in other places, and people just go, "Oh my goodness, he said it, and it made sense." So thrilling to have you here and talking about these things. We've been talking about antecedent modifications, and I mentioned before the break that earlier in this week we asked people. We were asking about, one day it was, do you use visual schedules and does it help you? And one day we asked if they were using a countdown.
Okay.
And we were meaning in the sense of counting them down, saying in 5 minutes we're going to transition to this other thing as an antecedent modification. Right. So a lot of people wrote in and said that in fact they use that and how helpful it is and how great their child responds and how much easier it made things. But we were noticing that a bunch of people wrote in and said, no, countdowns don't work. My child laughs at me, and they continue doing what they were doing anyway. We began to realize that the thread through all of those was that they were doing, the old-fashioned, when a child's doing something you don't want them to do and you go 1, 2, because you're about to punish.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about the difference of using a countdown for punishment versus the countdown for a transition.
Okay, sure. So yeah, I guess on the surface they would appear kind of similar, right? Either way, you're sort of counting down to let the kid know something's about to happen, right, and to prepare him. But yeah, they're completely different things. Like you said, one is, I think what you're intending to ask about was a countdown to a transition, or basically just a warning that a transition is going to happen.
Yeah.
And the theory behind that is that transitions can be frustrating and difficult for kids on the spectrum. And actually, it's not just a theory. We know that's the case, right?
Well, and it's not just kids on the spectrum.
Right,
I have a hard time with transitions sometimes.
Right, very good point. And so if transitions are frustrating, surprising, difficult, maybe in behavioral terminology, somewhat aversive sometimes, then some kind of warning that it's about to occur makes it less so for some kids, and for all of us. Frankly, if you and I were watching one of our favorite TV shows, and our spouse walked over and just turned off the TV and said, "Okay, we're going to go do something else," we'd be pretty mad, right?
Oh, I'd be like, "What happened?"
Yeah, what are you doing? Instead, what do? They say something like, "Oh, hey, you want to go do something else pretty soon or in a minute?" Or how about if we go do something else in a minute, right? Or, "Okay, I guess we should probably stop watching TV. Time to go do some housework."
Right.
We don't just make the transition happen, right? There's almost always some kind of warning stimulus.
Yeah.
And so it's fairly straightforward. It's just something you do as an antecedent intervention that makes something that the kid's not going to like it makes that a little bit less frustrating for the kid. And so, of course, if you make the kid's life a little bit less frustrating, they're going to be a little bit less frustrated and a little bit less likely to act out, right? So that makes a lot of sense. We recommend that all the time. I do it all the time.
Quality of life.
For
everyone.
And it's easy enough thing to do, right? Now, I would say don't get into the business of negotiating a lot, because that can kind of become a whole separate thing of, okay, 1 more minute, well, how about 5 minutes, or how about 11 minutes, or how about 30 more seconds, or how about if I just do this one more thing, right? And if you say yes to that once, it's probably not the end of the world. But if it turns into a 5 or 10 minute negotiation, and then pretty soon you realize, wow, for the last month, he's never just said okay. It's always been some kind of negotiation. Then maybe you're negotiating too much, right? So that's something to look out for.
Yeah, the king of this is when the kids who are playing on the video games, they say, just let me finish this level.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And my thing always is, how much longer is it to the next level? Oh, it's just going to take me a minute. And then a half an hour later, you're going, we need to go now. Now I'm really at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, how did I get into that? Anyway. You know?
It's happened to me more than once.
Oh, it happens to all of us.
Okay, so that's using a countdown as a warning for a transition. And it doesn't have to be a countdown. It can just be a reminder, hey, in 5 minutes we're going to go wherever. You can use a visual timer. I don't know if you have seen those visual countdown timers where you turn the timer and it basically makes like a red, space that gets smaller as time goes by. So it's a visual reminder. All of those things can be very helpful for transitions. Now, the countdown as a consequence of misbehavior is something completely different, right? And that's the old-fashioned thing you're talking about. That still, frankly, people do all the time. It's very, very common still. And it is a consequence intervention, because what it means is you're being reactive to your child doing something you don't want them to do. The first thing we talked about is a warning when your kid's being great, nothing wrong at all, right? It's just going to be time for transition pretty soon. You want to let them know. The second thing is you wait for them to do something bad, and then you give them a consequence that you hope will decrease that bad behavior, right? Well, first of all, if you're waiting until they did something bad, you've already missed the boat, right? You've already missed the whole antecedent part, which is what this week is about, right? But if you are doing it, you're basically just telling the kid you're going to get punished, and here's how much time you have to comply before you get punished. You might not be saying in those words, but that's what that's about, right?
Yeah, that's what the deal
is. Yeah, if the countdown is meaningful, if you actually mean it, right, it means you're going to get punished. And here's how much time you have before you get punished. And if you did that really consistently, and if the punishment was something that your kid actually didn't like, then it would work. Right? Because punishment does work. It's not the nicest way to modify behavior. It's not it certainly is not something you want to depend on as a parent to manage your child's behavior, but it does work if you do it consistently.
But let me ask you one thing though. Isn't the thing with punishment, you have to keep doing it. It's never going to take care of itself. If what you do to get, like I think of my son, if he's not getting out of the pool, if I'm saying 1, 2, 3, you better be out of the pool, and I'm consistent with it, I'm going to have to keep doing that until the cows come home. I'm never going to get to a point where I just say, get out of the pool. This is what I don't like about punishment. Is that it's never just going to maintain on its own.
That's right, because what you're doing is teaching your kid, wait till the very last second. Because the only motivation you're giving him is avoidance of punishment. That's the only motivation you're giving if all you're doing is punishment. So what you're teaching him is wait till the very last second and you can avoid the punishment, right? But of course, first of all, as parents, we don't really want to give that kind of motivation to our kids, do we? Your only motivation is to avoid punishment? That's not what we want to be about, right? I mean, that's maybe one piece of being a good, strict, or good, consistent parent is, sometimes you have to do some punishment, right? We can't let our kids walk over us, all over us completely. But really, honestly, at the end of the day, that's not what we want to be about. That should not be a major piece of our parenting. And if it is, that's a red flag that, okay, we got to focus more on antecedent interventions, and we got to focus more on replacement behaviors. And so I think what you were getting at is basically you're setting up a situation where your kid's only motivation is to avoid punishment. And so, of course, that's never going to fix it's never a real fix for the problem. A real fix for the problem would be creating some other source of motivation that's positive that the kid actually wants. And if you do that, then they are going to continue to do the behavior because they want the consequence, right? The good consequence. And so in the future, they will be more likely to just get out of the pool when you say time to get out of the pool. So how do you do it? You might have to start out with something fairly contrived, like if you get out of the pool the first time I ask with no nagging, then you get X, Y, and Z. Maybe it's an extra few minutes on the iPad. Maybe it's we listen to your favorite CD in the car when we're driving home. Maybe it's, you get to have this or that, whatever, right? Something somewhat contrived maybe. And then eventually, though, if you do that enough, you should be able to fade that out and get to something more, a little bit more normal. And of course, also just good old-fashioned praise and positive regard. If if you mean it and you pair that enough and you do that enough with some other more contrived reinforcers, it is reasonable to be able to fade that out eventually. Whereas if the only motivation is do it or else, then that's that. That's the only motivation the kid has. Why would they ever change?
Well, and what at least two of the parents who wrote in were saying, they said, he just laughs at me. Right. When I get to 3, he laughs, which to me says that you belong to the same parenting club that I do, which means that you did the thing, but you didn't think about what the consequences were, and you can't uphold it because whatever it was, you're not going to do anyway, and the kid knows it.
That's right. And that was
which is why they laugh at us.
The very next thing I was going to say is, man, if you are going to threaten punishment, you better have a punishment that actually is meaningful. And I don't mean be mean to your kid or anything like that, not hurt him, nothing like that. But the consequence that you're threatening, the kid better actually care about. Because if they don't, they're just going to laugh at you. Next, you better actually be able to follow through, right? And you better be consistent. Because what I've seen a lot of times when people count to 3 or count to 10 or whatever is they count to 3 and then they basically start counting over again. Right? They count, oh, this time I really mean it. 1, okay, you have 5 more seconds. 1, over and over and over.
You start going to fractions. You're like 1, 2, 2 and a half.
Right, exactly.
2 and 5/8.
And I'm laughing, but I'm not making fun of parents who do this.
Oh, we've
this
all done it. I do it still, right?
Yeah, it's just that if you do that behavior as a parent, you're not going to get the results that you want.
And it is laughable. They should be laughing at us when we say that, right? And one parent in particular who said, and then he smiles at me with this, wonderful grin that, your heart melts. I totally get it. Yeah. But if we flip the equation on the other side, you're still going to get the heart melting grin, but you get the compliance that you want, and the ability. I bring up the pool thing because. I think it was, I don't know if it was this last summer, that my head was so busy thinking about something else, and it was time to leave the pool, and I said, it's time to get out of the pool, and Jem got out of the pool, and we walked out the gate, because it's a HOA pool, and we walked out the gate to walk across the street, and I stopped being in my head for a second, and I said, hey, I just got to say, that was really cool. What a big boy you're turning out to be. You're doing such a good job, and it really meant something to me that you got out of the pool, and I didn't have to, give you a countdown or anything. Good job. And he pretty much stopped in the middle of the street. We don't live on a busy street, thank heaven. But he said, you don't do that enough. I like it when you do that, and you don't do that enough. And I went, what? And he said, compliment me and say nice things. And I went, oh my goodness.
That just makes your heart.
We're at the point where this is the amount of progress that we have made that he can tell me that I'm not praising him enough.
Right.
Oh, now, for corn's sake, Ethel.
Let's take this as a moment to acknowledge most of the kids on the spectrum don't have the language to tell you that.
And he didn't a couple of years ago.
Right, and it doesn't mean that they're not feeling it.
Yes.
Right? So it's just a good cue for all of us as parents. Man, take that time to do some positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Maybe plan ahead. Maybe with the getting out of the pool example, usually what we all do as parents is wait till the very last second till we're going to be late, right? And then rush out of the pool and get ready, dry off, whatever, put the clothes on, run in the car. Well, if you know that it's going to be an issue and you know that you want some time for positive reinforcement, maybe set the time that you actually have to get out of the pool, set it back 10 minutes earlier, so that then if your kid actually does do it on time, without nagging, then you get 10 minutes of playtime and fun, whatever it is that your kid would really like. So you have the time to actually reward the behavior, make him feel proud of himself, and then move on with whatever the next thing is on the schedule.
You know what light bulb just went off in my head? That whenever I talk to you, I realize that I, as a parent, need to be sharpening my executive function skills.
That's a really good point.
That that I don't have to get as stressed and as overwhelmed by things, but if I sharpen my executive function skills and say, what's my goal? How am I going to get there? Is it working? What do I need to do in advance so that I can be working on the goal that I would be more successful?
Right.
And that's really the ticket for all of us for the holidays.
Absolutely.
Is to use our executive function skills, which I would encourage you to read through the executive function lessons in the skills because it's helping me. Honestly, it is that they're great skills for our kids, but we can't teach them to our kids unless we have them as well. And so read through those lessons and use them to get your life to the place that you want it with your child, which is going to be a happier, better place.
That's right.
Which will lead to happier and better holidays. It can't hurt. Can't hurt. Well, all very, very remarkable, and I thank you so much for being here and for sharing all this wonderful information. And I know that you guys are really busy and that you have events from time to time. Do you have anything on the horizon, or it's a pretty busy time?
Yeah, nothing right now with the holidays coming up. Nope, nothing real soon. I think in February or so.
Okay, so you'll make sure and let us know about that, because we love all the events that you guys do at the Autism Research Group, and want to remind people as we let you go, autismresearchgroup.org, that's where you want to go. You can find a bunch of different resources there, and also make sure that you do the survey. The parent survey, because they want to know what kinds of research would be meaningful to us. And if you don't weigh in, then others of us will, and then you'll have to live with what we decided. You really want to do that? Yes.
Take a look at the Lost in Public video.
Yes.
And take 15 minutes, set 15 minutes aside and run through it with your kid.
Absolutely.
Listen, watch the video, leave us comments, and it gives you real simple step-by-step instructions. Just try it out with your kid.
Absolutely.
See what happens.
And then I'm going to encourage you to share it with somebody. That's going to be your pay it forward for the week. Because you never know, if you share that on your Facebook, who might see that today who desperately needs it today.
Right. That's really
true. Share it. It's free. It costs you nothing to do that, and it might save someone's life. How many times can you say that about things that you do in your day? So we thank you for making that video and for sharing it and putting it in a way that it's free. That's really incredible.
Absolutely.
All right, we are going to say goodbye to Dr. Tarbox. We're going to come back to finish out the show, but thank you so much for being here.
It's always great to be here.
All right, stick with us. Back after this.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. 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 Let's get wild.
Hi, it's Lisa Ackerman. Welcome back to What's Left. We're enjoying some wine. We're going to make some fake bourbon chicken tonight, but we're not using bourbon. It's not gluten-free. So what we're doing, and Kristen, you're doing a great job at pounding and getting out all of your energy on that chicken, so go take it out.
I know. You know, how many of us moms are at a park or we're at a grocery store and somebody walks up to you and, your child's having a meltdown and, having not one of those fun days. This is a great thing to come home to. You would come home and really pound that chicken, and you would feel so much better. That's basically, it kills two birds with one stone.
You're making a great meal for your family.
Yes, and you're feeling great.
You're feeling better about that jerk who said, why can't you get your kid under control?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take all your pounded, aggressive chicken and start to saute it in the skillet. And I'm just going to add a little bit of my grapeseed oil. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this in. We love the way we're going to just try to brown this up and cook it a little bit. Just a little bit of salt and pepper on top. And we're just going to go ahead and brown this. Great, Kristen. Great job. I think we're almost all brown here, so I'm going to get your help over at the cutting board, if you don't mind.
The cutting station.
The cutting station. We're going to cut this in about a third slices. You go chop it up.
Okay.
I'm going to start on the sauce.
Okay.
We're going to take the orange juice, water, and add that in. And I'm going to measure out the fake soy sauce, a third cup. Add that in. Take in your ketchup and your brown sugar and go ahead and put that in. So in here is the red pepper flakes and ginger. So we're going to go ahead and add that in. So in the red pepper flakes, if you've got a kid that's really sensitive and doesn't like to bring a lot of heat to the kitchen, you can definitely omit that. That's not a problem. And then my favorite, as much garlic as tolerated. And the last thing that we're going to do, and as we get this heated up on the skillet, is we're going to pull this in, thicken to the sauce, and add in the arrowroot to thicken it. So we're going to go back to the frying pan. Woohoo! And put in our sauce, and we're going to bring it to a boil, and that's when I'm going to add the arrowroot. What arrowroot does for everything, like when we're baking with gluten-free flours, this adds kind of the oomph to hold it together. Arrowroot is also a great sauce thickener. So let's go in and add the chicken. Thank you again for helping get this all together. I made extra sauce because I'm a saucy girl. So we made a really nice meal here tonight. We're talking just the right flavors, right texture. So I'm going to serve you up to what we're going to have for dinner, if that sounds good to you. Yes! So
I always love coming over.
So what we made over here is just really some, what I call my dirty rice, and it's just some of the really nice different spices. I use a little red pepper flakes in that as well, beaumont, parsley, and just salt and pepper. It's really simple. And some of my favorite, which is zucchini sauteed. So I'm going to just go ahead and serve you up, and you can get to be my guinea pig once again.
I will always be a good guinea pig anytime you cook.
Bon appetit, my friend.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us at Autism Live. Chris and I had fun with you today.
I always have fun. Thank you.
It is. It's great. And we had fun with you, too. And if you have questions or want to see us cook some more different dinners, just email us. You can email us at autismlive@gmail.com or go to Facebook, facebook.com/autismlive. Or Taka Now. Taka's got tons of recipes, over 2,000 recipes ready for you to come and explore and have some fun. And thanks to Holly for this great bourbon-free bourbon chicken. And we'll see you next time on What's Love?
Bye, guys.
You say hi, we say hi. Let's get wild, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back. As we finish this week, we talk a little bit about a story from the Autism Daily newscast. The headline here is Studies Suggest Female Brain has inherent protection from autism. A recent study at Yale University suggests that the female brain may somehow be inherently protected from developing autism. Researcher Stephen Sanders and his team observed variations in genes and mutations between male and female subjects. They found that girls actually had substantially more high-risk genetic mutations associated with autism than boys, yet they were less likely to develop autistic behaviors. These results imply that the female brain may have more inherent protection against developing the disorder than male brains. This study corroborates a twin study published in February 2013 Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, which found that girls with autistic traits were more likely to have siblings with similar traits than boys are. The study also found that girls are less likely to display the traits of autism unless there are also a variety of other risk factors present. Another study by Amy Klein at Emory University found that girls with autism tend to engage in their social environments differently than boys with the disorder. The results showed that girls with mild autism spent more time looking at people's eyes than those with more severe autism, while the opposite is true for male subjects. While these studies show promise, many researchers fear that girls are underdiagnosed and underrepresented in current research. Researchers have also noted that boys and girls with autism tend to differ in how their symptoms manifest. Dr. Peter Satsmari, the head of the Division of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Neurosciences at McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, says, often the symptoms of ASD appear as extreme shyness or anxiety in girls, masking that they may not be responsive to the social cues of others. And while fixated interests are common with both sexes on the autism spectrum, girls tend to focus on topics such as ponies, princesses, dolls, or drawing, common passions for non-autistic girls too. Boys, on the other hand, may become stuck on less typical activities, such as lining up blocks or running sand through their fingers. As a result, doctors may miss that some of the female patients show signs of autism. It's clear that further research on gender differences in autism is warranted, both to determine whether there are biological factors that decrease females' chances of developing the disorder, and also being better to serve those girls and women who are currently living with autism. So bringing up a lot of different interesting points. And again, if you want to read the full study and more quotes from the different scientists, you can go to autismdailynewscast.com and check out that full story. But it certainly brings up some very interesting questions about, because we know the prevalence in boys is so significantly higher than it is in girls, and figuring out why that may be. We are really at the end of the show here, and I wanted to thank all of you for being with us. I want to remind you of a couple of things. Our Holiday Giveaway Extravaganza continues all of next week and the week after. We'll be back on Tuesday, and we're going to have more things to give away. Really want to encourage you to participate in this giveaway and to share it with others. We're trying to reach as many people as we can to give as many of these items away and make this holiday season a little bit more manageable, a little brighter for as many people as we can. So we count on you to get the word out to people. If you know somebody who's in need, make sure that they have the information so that they can choose to participate in the giveaway. We really want to put these toys in the hands of people who will cherish them and that will help them to make their season brighter. Next week, as we've mentioned all this week, we're going to be talking about consequence modification. I think you guys are going to find it really, really interesting. We've got an exciting lineup of people, starting with on Tuesday, both Alex Plank and Matt Asner will be back with us on Tuesday. So I want to wish all of you happy and safe holidays and encourage you once again to check out that video, Lost in Public. I have a strong feeling that there's somebody out there who really needs to be watching it in this busy holiday season and giving those tools to their child. So make sure that you do that. I want to thank everybody who's been involved in the show this week. All of our wonderful guests will be back on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and that is 1 p.m. Eastern time for a 2-hour show and all throughout next week. So tune in with us then, and until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.